Man, you got quite the backdrop up there.
I do, yeah. I've slowly been accumulating that through the years here.
I like the Titanfall controller. I spent way too much time in that until Destiny came out.
Oh yeah, I've got all three systems in Timefall. I love so. But yeah, we are now live, so let me get going here.
Okay.
David, welcome to Club Apple. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thanks a lot for having me. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the first episode of Club Apple, and I was very excited to have some developers on the show that have made iOS 8 actually a good OS for us end users. I've been using it during the summer, and it was okay, but now we have like 1Password and things like that to make it awesome.
Yeah, I think that's the big difference with iOS 8 is it's an awesome update from Apple, but a lot of the really big features was stuff for developers to use. So it's the big platform stuff that you had to wait for all the developers to update with and
Hmm.
to see all these cool things show up. Otherwise, you've seen some of those interviews with, like regular folks who updated with iOS, and they're like, it looks nothing's changed, nothing's
Yeah.
different. But once you start playing with some of the stuff developers make, then it all comes together.
Yeah. Now the coolest thing that you guys at 1Password were able to do is integrate with share sheets to do autofill into passwords, and beyond that, use Touch ID within that share sheet to make it. Was that a pretty straightforward thing? Because most share sheets, you're like, let's copy this information from the web to go elsewhere. Yours is going in. Was that a straightforward thing for you guys?
It kind of was. It's something that people have been asking for since iOS was able to have apps, and we showed up on
Hmm.
iOS. I think nobody was really sure how Apple was going to implement it, and I
Hmm.
wonder if that's part of what they were waiting to get right, so to speak.
Yeah.
But our CEO Jeff Shiner wrote a blog post a little while ago that kind of digs into a little bit of the our decision process and about doing this, and he said exactly what some of us were thinking. Like when we were watching the keynote and Apple announced that, it was almost like Apple was talking to us. Like this was made for us, and I'm sure there's
Yeah.
thousands of other developers that felt the same way. But it was the exact feature that we wanted all this time, so we were
Hmm.
so happy.
And it works really well. And I've even seen third-party apps having share sheets just for the sole purpose of 1Password. I saw release notes for Level Money, and it's an app to kind of like a I don't know, it's an app to track your money spending habits. But in the release notes, 1Password integration. It's like it's a thing now, so that's pretty
That's
cool.
that's an amazing thing coming from a developer is seeing. We've always had this what we think is a great app, and we have a lot of customers who really love us. But when you build something and then other people start building things for your
Hmm.
thing or that work
Yeah.
with your thing, that's a totally different feeling, and it's been amazing to see. We started reaching out to developers really early on in the iOS beta cycle over the summer to
Hmm.
start getting support and feedback and how this is supposed to work, and of course get as many on as we could. And I think we've talked to over about 120 developers now.
Wow.
So they're not, don't quote me that way, but
Sure.
I'd say there's probably 20 or 30 in the store right now, and there's a ton more on the way. So we're really excited.
Yeah, it's great because like a lot of these apps, like let me just use the website because it's gonna be easier for my complicated passwords.
Yeah.
Now, let's see. Touch ID is probably another just amazing hallelujah moment when they said you guys can use that because now my 1Password can actually be a complicated password because I don't have to enter it that often.
Yeah, that helps out a lot too, and it's great that Apple's doing it in a very interesting way where they're making sure that people still don't forget their passwords.
Yeah, which is
Which
important, right? I mean,
it's important. I certainly understand. We have a few customers who are like, I never want to type my password again.
I do wish there
But
was a mode of
right,
let me just
right.
trust my fingerprint as the only way.
And there's, Apple is drawing a clear line there. Like, how if you reboot your iPhone, you can't use Touch ID to sign back in. You have to type your passcode.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that people don't forget their passwords. But aside from that, it's been fantastic. It looks like they gave us everything that we needed. It's super convenient when you're in Safari and you use the 1Password extension and you can lock with Touch ID. I mean, it feels like a first class experience, and Apple
It
let us go all the
does.
way.
It's so fast. And you can just when you know Touch ID is coming up as one of your next operations, you can have your thumb there already, and it's just like it's unlocked before you see it come up.
Yeah, yeah, they nailed that little detail. If your thumb's already there, it just barely shows up and then
Yeah.
does its thing right away. They did it really well.
Now with iCloud Drive, they finally made files pretty good for end users. Does that affect what end users, what developers do for syncing? Like, are you syncing through iCloud Drive, or is the old syncing mechanisms in iCloud still enabled for that kind of functionality?
So it's funny you ask this. We're actually working on a blog post right now that explains a little bit more about what's going on, because I think between developers and I think some confusion in how this is covered, I don't think we've done a very good job of explaining what's going on.
Yeah.
So keeping in mind, I'm one of the media guys who helps get a lot of this content out and translate what's going on here. So I can't speak to like the really
You're not
under
a
the hood.
developer per se.
Yeah, yeah. Don't start asking me about NSURL whatever stuff.
Yeah.
But there's kind of two components to what Apple has released. The first is iCloud Drive, which is probably the thing that you and I as end users are more familiar with, your listeners are more familiar with. It's that folder, quote unquote, where people can just put stuff and now it's on all their devices.
Yep.
There's a thing under the hood, a mechanism that Apple released called CloudKit. And you'll probably see some developers mentioning that in their release notes. You might see it mentioned in media somewhere as well. That is sort of the sync engine that developers like us are writing to. So we're syncing your data with CloudKit.
And is this a new protocol that wasn't in iOS 7? Was that a different cloud syncing protocol?
Yes, absolutely, and it's one of the things where you can probably find a number of developer blog posts that are like Hallelujah CloudKit, because if iCloud was the 1.0 last year, so to speak, for developers to sync stuff, CloudKit is a massive 2.0, so to speak, of just better tools. We can do syncing a lot better. There's a lot of really great stuff in there, but if a developer like us is using CloudKit, it doesn't mean that your stuff is going to show up in Cloud Drive. Does that help?
Right. Yeah, because it's separate. Because users have no reason to access a sync file, right?
Right. That's the idea. For some stuff, it's a little better if that file isn't there, because now you can't accidentally delete it. You can't go inside and start messing around with things. It can get a little...
It's like the hidden library folder on your Mac.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're using CloudKit. So you're not going to be able to go into iCloud Drive and mess with that file or anything. So there's kind of two different components going on that they're a little bit related, but they are distinct in some very important ways.
Okay. Now, something I was wondering about, I know 1Password had or does still have a web version that you're able to put your thing in Dropbox and do all that fancy stuff. Is it one or the other kind of setup? You're syncing with iCloud, or you have the Dropbox with the Windows support and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's one or the other. For a little while, we did offer both. So if you wanted to, you could go into the sync pane and enable both Dropbox and iCloud. Sync is tricky enough that we decided that we're going to make it one or the other. It's just going to be easier for users. We'll run into less trouble. Your data will be more stable. So, with iCloud Sync, as far as I know, right now we don't have the option for that web portal into your 1Password data file. Should we explain that at all, just to make sure everybody's on the same page?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So it's a great feature for those of you who perhaps are on multiple platforms. You got a PC at work, you have an Android phone, you have an iPad maybe. And or if you're just out traveling and you need to get a hold of your data but you don't have one of your devices, we have a feature called 1Password Anywhere. And
the other use case I'd say is if you're sharing a database for your work, your business that you work at, and you want to all access that one thing, that's great for that too.
Absolutely. And the idea is if you sync with Dropbox, there is a file in there in your Dropbox that you can get to, and Dropbox treats your 1Password file as a folder. So one of the perks there is if you go into your 1Password folder, so to speak, there's a file in there called 1Password HTML. And it's basically a web page that opens up and looks quite a bit like 1Password, and it is kind of a portal that will run in a browser, locally in your browser, that lets you decrypt your 1Password vault, that we call it, and you can get at your items. You could say copy a password out and log into an app on your work machine, or if you're out traveling, you can basically do your business while you're out without one of your devices where you have your 1Password on it.
Yeah, it's a great feature, and it's something I used to use quite a bit. Now, something that you guys spent many updates on is the browser getting better and better within the app. Yeah. Now, with full integration in Safari, is the browser kind of done with the browser, or are you guys still looking at ways to make the browsing experience good for future updates? Is that...
It's a good question. We have been spending a lot of time on the iOS 8 update and now Yosemite, which just dropped last week. So 1Password 5 for Mac is out for Yosemite. We haven't spent a lot of time talking about one browser, which is what we call that. There's certainly some advantages to it in that we can add some types of controls that maybe Safari doesn't have.
Right.
Maybe like browser spoofing, or certain types of controls over cookies right inside the browser, stuff like that. So I think there's certainly still value in keeping the feature around, but we haven't made a whole lot of decisions right now.
Right. Does the Safari extension allow for you store your credit card information in 1Password? Does the share sheet work for that, or is that something you need to do within one browser?
I believe it does, and
it does. Okay.
I don't want to go on record saying when it's coming, but I think that's something we're working on. Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's kind of what you have in the browser on a computer is logins, credit cards, and identities.
Right.
And I think we're working on bringing that to our extension too.
Okay. Now, the 6 Plus was somewhat of a surprise in me. I knew they were going to do a bigger size, but I didn't think they'd go that big.
Yeah.
From a development angle, have you guys gone over the 6 Plus and kind of thought how to treat it differently, or is it just going to be a bigger interface?
We're definitely looking at a unique interface for it. Our lead designer Dan Peterson, he picked up a 6 Plus right away.
Yeah.
In fact, I think he had to go stand in line pretty early in the morning to grab it.
To come by.
Yeah. And he's the type who wants to build the right tool for the right job, so to speak. And so that the unique controls that they allow for the 6 Plus, I think were a little bit of a surprise too. That you can do some unique layout stuff that's not quite iPad, not quite iPhone.
Yeah, because it's 16:9, which makes it all the more fun.
Yeah,
for developers, right? Yeah.
So I think he's spending some time with that and looking really hard at it.
Okay, that's good to hear, because I have a 6 Plus, so I always am curious what developers are doing with that.
So you have a 6 Plus. What did you come from, if I may ask?
A 5, so it was a big upgrade as far as size, and I wanted just a radical change because it had the same, marginally bigger iPhones every year. Let's just go wild and get the big one and see how it is.
Yeah,
and I'm enjoying it. I did bring back to life my 4S to use on morning walks and stuff when I really don't want to carry it around. But
understandable. Yeah, that feels like it'd be a little bit big to strap to your arm and like go walking or running with. Yeah,
but for my day to day, it's fine. I'll carry it and lay it on my desk, and I have a Pebble smartwatch and a really awesome Bluetooth headset, and I can just use calling and answer that without even having the phone handy. So,
perfect.
I think the Apple Watch will also make the 6 Plus something people start to appreciate more.
Yeah,
so it's not something you really want to hold up to your ear that often, and it's a nice device though.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Sometime early next year, right? We don't quite have a day.
Yeah, early next year, and I just got the August Smart Lock, and I'm really hoping they do local apps so I can unlock my front door with my watch, because it's a Bluetooth connection is how the August works. I'm hoping there will be at least some support for local only apps. So we'll see how that goes with WatchKit next month.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure if there's a use case for 1Password on the watch, because there won't be a browser or anything, so I'm trying to think, yeah.
We immediately got to kicking around some ideas. Nothing to Nothing
Yeah.
to announce much yet, but they're definitely, we
Well, I
can
mean, I
see.
guess, let me look at my social security card on your phone or on your watch or something. I don't know. Reference material? I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know. There's
like
ideas, I'm sure.
there's actually one idea was, well, I should probably not get too
Yeah.
far into that, but yeah,
Sure.
that's what the watch is about, right? Is
Hmm.
having sort of like access to like specific information that you
Yeah.
would need in a case like that. So
Yeah.
you can play around with some ideas.
Sure. Yeah. Your ice card when you go down, But
Yeah, right.
yeah, I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff. Let's see. Yosemite is now out. What did you guys do for Yosemite on 1Password?
So Yosemite
Yeah.
was a pretty big redesign. It's the iOS 7 of OS 10, so to speak. Complete redesign up and down, new ways that things should look and work. And so we did a really big redesign for that, and then we brought CloudKit to the Mac.
Gotcha.
So now if you're syncing with 1Password 5 on iOS,
You need Yosemite,
yeah, you need
Yeah.
Yosemite if you want to use iCloud Sync.
which makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, same thing with all these handoff apps. You need to be updated with that. And
Yep.
all that. Dark modes in Yosemite, is that something in 1Password that you guys have played around with yet?
Yeah, dark mode. We did a complete dark mode overhaul, so it supports the dark toolbars, and that goes right down to 1Password Mini, which is what we call our menu bar app.
Yeah.
He's a little 1Password Mini guy.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah.
He got a big redesign too, and that includes dark mode. So it should look and work right in either space.
So does the menu bar 1Password Mini replace the browser extension? Because I think I have them both installed.
They're kind of they work together. They
They
don't
do,
really
okay.
yeah, they don't really replace each other. The menu bar one is optional, but the idea there is to basically give you access to your 1Password even if the app isn't running, even if your browser isn't running. So if Safari, Firefox, Chrome is not running in the dock, you can still get up to the menu bar, 1Password Mini, unlock it, and if you find a login, it'll open your browser, open the website, log you in.
It's cool. Very cool. Let's see. Any other iOS 8 APIs and stuff you guys have been using, or anything you guys would like to use? I don't know if widgets would ever make sense with 1Password.
That's one we've gotten questions on. Everybody loves the widgets in the Today view. I know we're certainly looking at it. I mean, we love all the new stuff that Apple gives developers, and this is probably the biggest birthday present that Apple's given us
Yeah.
in a long time, possibly since 2008, since the opening of the App Store. But I
Sure.
don't want to say too much just yet. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up.
Yeah.
But we're definitely looking at all that stuff, and there's a lot to look at.
Now, on the Mac, you have, I believe it's called Knox. Is that a file
Yes.
storage application? Is that what exactly is Knox?
So you can kind of think of it as a 1Password for your files. So it basically lets you wrap up files in something that's a little bit like a zip file, but it's encrypted for one.
Yeah.
Two, you can apply a password to it, and you can share that image with anybody, and only they can get in if they have that
I see.
password. And so there's a few other little perks that we add, like we have a menu bar item that makes it a little easier to manage your Knox vaults, stuff like that. But it's a way to keep some of those files that maybe they don't fit in 1Password, because you can attach things to items in 1Password. It's a way to keep those things encrypted and safe, just in the file system in the Finder.
Okay. And it would not, with Touch ID, would it make sense at all to make an iPad viewer with handoff and that kind of stuff at all in the future?
That's a good question. That is a good question.
Yeah. One you probably aren't ready to answer.
And that's what I will say. That's a good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. With all the Mac-only apps, Pixelmator the other day, it's like, I'd really love just a view-only handoff thing with Pixelmator, so I could just grab my iPad and show my coworker what I just worked on and have prepared for an ad. Now they're doing the full app, which is cool. So
It really is, Apple usually. I think it's kind of surprising in a way, since we're getting back around to this topic. I think it really is kind of fascinating. Apple usually goes they iterate and they do like kind of one step at a time. And I think people have been asking for a lot of stuff for a while, and they answered. And so they really did give us a ton of stuff, and there's almost so much that we need a little more time to catch up with it all.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen a whole lot of apps. You know, a lot of apps I think jumped on the Today widgets and Touch ID, stuff like that. Extensions, of course.
Yeah.
But I think we need time to really digest the rest of it and find a good place for it. It's awesome. It's a great problem to have because we're not running out of great Apple toys with, but I think it's really going to take some time.
Yeah. Like the whole keyboard scene's just interesting as well.
Yeah.
There's so many bizarre keyboards out there that it's just so great.
I mean, even that I'd forgotten about it until you brought it up. I mean, I have 4 of them that I'm playing with, but it's just trying to go through the list of all the stuff that Apple released it really is kind of daunting this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the keyboards are fantastic too. I have a GIF keyboard, text expander, of course.
Yeah, that's a great one.
That's like a text expander is a must-have in my opinion, along with 1Password and a couple others.
No, they're a great duo for being productive and efficient on your machines.
Yeah, and then of course there's David Smith. He made a. Have you seen Emoji Plus Plus?
I've not. I have the Apple emoji keyboard.
It's funny. Yeah. He made a. It's basically the Apple emoji keyboard, the default one, but he made like a few little tweaks to it that make it totally worth. I think it's 99 cents, maybe $2.
Like a better interface to get around your emoji.
Yeah, like it's a full scrolling page of emoji, not like a bunch of different pages that you have to switch, and you can mark some as favorites, and if you like emoji, it's totally worth it.
That's cool. Yeah, I love keyboard developer. I mentioned this the other day that I guess you have to be able to input text or some communication mechanism into it, but have a page 2 for Hue and page 3 for your Nest, and have like a HomeKit keyboard almost, so you don't have to leave the app to get in that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's amazing to see what developers were able to do in the few months that they had since the announcement. But I'm really interested to see what happens in the next few months once we really start getting to spend more time with all this stuff and see what we can do and push the boundaries. And I think it's going to be the best year for iOS since the store opened.
I've been more excited about Apple than ever because iOS 8 was like, wow, this is awesome. They're back at it. iOS 7 was a great just visual refresh, but the new phone sizes and what iOS 8 brought, we're getting so close to like where a 12-inch iPad would actually make sense because they have all these. They're getting more powerful with the features, so they're it's getting to the point where I'll probably want my Mac for many more years, but it's getting to the point where iPads can be productive at some point soon.
Yeah, I know Federico Vittisi at Mac Stories. He's been really big on going iPad only and writing a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think he's been saying at this point, because he got to test a lot of the apps early on, he's saying that iOS 8 might actually let him do it. And he runs a whole site. I mean, Mac Stories is
a great site, yeah.
It's a WordPress-powered site, right? I think they have a podcast now and a newsletter. Like, all the things that you have been doing on a Mac, he's really pushing forward, and it sounds like he's going to really make it.
That's exciting because I tried that a couple of years ago. It just took forever to do it.
Yeah.
It's
filling in those holes, and Apple's doing a really good job of it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what else they do as far as iOS 9 next year. That seems like they're on a roll with all this. Any final topics you want to talk about before closing it out?
I think I'd just like to say that, first of all, thanks for having me on. But we're also really interested in hearing what people think about, what we released. If there is some Apple stuff that we could build into 1Password to make it even better, if there's something that we haven't thought of in iOS yet, we totally want to hear from people. Can I mention a few places?
Absolutely. Yeah. By the way, yeah.
Twitter's good. It's a little brief, but at 1Password. We also have support@agileBits.com. We just give us an email. We love to hear from people. We're as excited as ever, and we just want to make 1Password awesome.
Okay, awesome. So support@agileBits.com, and then at 1Password, is that it?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, David. It's been great having you on, and looking forward to all the future updates you guys are pushing out. I know I saw you guys tweet out about what was it? There was some. Oh yes, the ordering and the share seats is all messed up. I noticed the first day, and that's still not fixed. So
Yeah,
it's good to see you guys on top of what's wrong.
well, there's always work to be done for sure.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, and have a good rest of your day here.
Thanks a lot. Good luck with the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.